Hey everyone, it's Professor Nagel. We are working through Murach C Exercise 12-1, which is create a customer maintenance app that uses classes. And I have the starter files opened up already, which is step 1. And step 2 is to add a class named constructor. So there's numerous ways to do this. The way that I found that works 100% of the time without screwing things up is project add class. And then we're naming this class customer with a capital C. It's a class that we're adding. We don't have to worry about the file name. Visual Studio will add that for us. Hit add, and there is the file customer.cs, and there is the start to that file. Got a little bit bigger for you. Okay, that was the beginning of step 2. Now we need to add the properties, which is first name, last name, and email. So within here, we're going to add the properties. So public string, first name, and this property is using it's going to be an auto implemented property, meaning we don't need to override the get or set accessors. And the default value is nothing. And we're going to do that also with last name. Oh, thank you. And with email. It's like it's listening to me or something. All right, those are our 3 properties. The method that we need to create is called getDisplayText. So getDisplayText will take actually, it's going to take no arguments, and it returns the customer's first name, space, last name, comma, space, email address. So it's returning that, which means it's returning a string. And I'm not going to write the shorthand version. I'm going to write this out. So we're going to return this dot first name plus a space, plus this dot last name, plus a comma space, plus this dot email. All right, I'm being very specific with the this keyword here. That's not required, but I think it helps beginner programmers realize that first name here is referring to the property first name from this instance, the one that we're working with right now. And you can see if I click on first name, it highlights up here. That's the thing that we're working with. All right, and we need 2 constructors. The first is going to be a constructor with no parameters. And when you create a new instance of the customer class without any parameters, there's nothing to do. So it's just empty like that. However, you could also create an instance of the customer class, and with it you can send along first name, last name, and email. Now notice that like this first name, we take these arguments and we set them into the properties of this instance, right? So first name here, this refers to the property first name. This first name refers to the argument, right? And we can even say like, you don't need to do this, but like argument first name. Okay, they don't need to be named the same thing, right? This can be whatever. I like dogs, right, as the last name. Now, clearly that's a terrible variable name, but you get the idea that they don't need to be the same thing. All right, I think that's important to understand because a lot of times they are the same, and here it's the same except for capitalization, but they do not need to be the same thing. So the book itself says code the properties as auto-implemented properties. We did that. And code the method as an expression-bodied method. I did not do that. I actually wrote out the method here. I don't know. That's probably because I'm old school. But if you do need to write that out as an expression-bodied method, do so. Code the constructor that accepts parameters. Oh, as an expression bodied constructor that uses a tuple. That's very specific, so maybe we should do that. All right, so instead of these curly brackets here, let's delete that. We're going to make it expression bodied that uses a tuple. This dot first name, this dot last name, this dot email is equal to first name, last name, email. All right, so I redid that one so that it is an expression bodied constructor using a tuple. And we learned about tuples a few weeks back. All right, and obviously we've been saving, and then it wants us to look at the validator class. Well, that's a static class. Remember, static classes we don't need to create an instance of. We can just use it. And because it's a static class, everything inside of it is also static. And I can close that, and we're on to step 4. So display the code for the add customer form. Here is the add customer form. F7 to display the code, and it's not doing a whole lot. So we need a new class level variable. It can be private, only accessible within this class. It is of customer type. The name of it is customer, and it's going to be equal to null to start. All right, so that is display the code, declare a class variable named customer of type customer with an initial value of null. And then add a public method named getNewCustomer that displays the form as a dialog and returns a customer object. So if it's returning a customer object, we know it's public customer. The name of this method is getNewCustomer. And what it does is it shows this form as a dialog, and it returns customer. So the customer that it's returning is this class level variable customer. All right, and this is giving us an error that the return type customer is less accessible than the method. So the method is public and the return type of customer is less accessible. And if we go to our customer.cs, you notice that when Visual Studio created that code for us, it made this internal. So let's change this from internal to public. And now, so that was in customer CS, we changed internal to public. Now when we go back here, there we go. That error is now gone. Okay, back to the assignment. Step 6, add an event handler for the click event of the save button. So double click on the save button. That validates the data on the form using the methods of the validator class. All 3 fields are required, and the email field must be a valid email address. So we're going to be looking at is present, which, let's see here, is static. It returns a string. All right, I have an idea. And it takes in a value and a name. So the way I would do this, I'm going to say string error message is equal to nothing. And then error message plus equals validator dot is present. This takes in txt first name dot text, and remember we're going to trim the input as well. And this field is called first name. And then we need that for last name. So I'm just going to take this line, I need it a couple times. Last name, and email. So I'm making sure that all of these things are valid. Let's see, let's look at our validator. We have is present, is decimal, is in 32 within range. Oh, is valid email. Let's use that one too. Is valid email. I mean, we don't have to check to see if it's empty. We could actually just use is valid email. So we're going to use is present, is valid email, because an empty string is not a valid email address. Now, if error message is equal to nothing, the form is valid. And you know me, I don't like to use else's, so I'm going to say if the error message is not empty, the form is invalid. So display an error message. Message box dot show All right, let me break this onto multiple lines so you can see all of it, because I added message box, buttons, and all that stuff, and return, right? Get out of here. When you hit save, we do some error checking. If the form is invalid, I don't like that. If the form is not valid, display a message and get out of here. So now, because I returned here, I don't need an else statement. So now, what if, if I'm here, the form data is valid. So now I can say customer is equal to a new customer, and the first name is txt first name dot text trim, right? And look, our customer object, or our customer class, has two different constructors. One is just empty, and the other one takes in a string, and a string. And that's the one we're going to be using right now. So first name, last name, and email. So we set the customer, and now we're going to close the window. All right, at this point, just kind of believe me, that's what is happening. And then if the user hits cancel, all we need to do is close the window. Okay, so from the customers form, FRM customers, if you click add, it pops up this window. You fill it out. If you hit save, it will validate the data and then sets the customer, this class level variable, to a new customer, and then it closes the window. And if you hit cancel, it just closes the window. So we're through step 7. Step 8, now we're going to the customer maintenance form, FRM customer, and we're looking at the code for it. And we want a list of customers. All right, we're going to call this customers. So to start, we have a list of customers called customers, and that is a class level variable with an initial value of null. That was step 8. Step 9, add an event handler to the load event of the form. So on the form, double click on it, event handler for the load event of the form. That uses the get customers method of the customer DB class. All right, so we have the customer DB class that has a get customers method that returns a list of type customer. Great, so when the form loads, we're going to say customers equals customer DB dot get customers. So look, we didn't make an instance of customer DB. So how the heck did that work? That we were able to use it? If you look at customer DB, it is also a static class. So you can create an instance of it without, you can use it without creating an instance of it. All right, and then we need to take this list of customers and add it to this list box, LST customers. So for each customer in customers. All right, wow, that's a little confusing, right? So this customers is the list. All right. You know what? Maybe we should even, let's take this. I'm going to click on it and hit F2. Let's rename it to customer list. All right. So we're not so confusing here. And instead of customer, let's say this customer. We're dealing with one individual customer. So for this customer in the customer list, LST customers is the list box. Items is what's in the list box. And we want to add to it this customer that I'm dealing with, but remember that is a customer type. You can't add a customer to it. You have to add a string. So we're going to use get display text. And you wrote this get display text. If I hold down control, I can click on it. That's that method that you wrote, that get display text. All right, back here. Let's see if this works now. I don't even know if there's any customers in the database to start with. All right, doesn't look like there is. And for my students, customers.txt is, you'll find it right here. All right, we're going to talk about that in a moment. That's the text file that everything runs from. Okay, now add an event handler. So that was, that was step 9. Step 10, add an event handler for the click event of the add button. That creates a new instance of the add customer form and executes the get new customer method of that form. So FRM add customer, that's the type of form. We're going to name it add customer form equals new FRM add customer. All right. Remember, you could also just do equals new because we know that the type is FRM add customer. So new must be running a new FRM add customer. This is just a little bit more explicit, I guess you could say. And customer, and let's just call this my new customer, just so, again, I don't want to get confused with using the word customer again and again and again. And how we're going to create that, it's coming from the, sorry, I need an equal sign there. It's coming from the add customer form dot get new customer. So add customer form get new customer, if I hold down control again and click on that, it shows this form and then it returns the customer. The customer here is this class level variable, and that got set after we clicked on save. We did some validation and we set it here. All right, remember to add comments to your code. I'm not going to do all the commenting here, but adding comments for my students, that is part of your grade. Okay, if the customer object that's returned by this method is not null, then add it to the list and call save customers and then refresh the customer list box. So if, oh, that was really good. If my new customer is not equal to null, and like it, you could take the book, the instructions from the book, copying some instructions here. Okay, this event handler should add it to the list. Call save customers with customer DB class to save it to the list, and then refresh. I mean, there you go. There's your comments. Right, take it right from the book. So it should add the new customer to the list. What's my list called again? I know I renamed it. Customer list. So we added that customer to the list. Call the save customers method of the customer DB class. Customer DB dot save customers. That takes in the customer list, and then refresh the customer's list box. Well, that's this code right here. All right, and I don't want to run this code. I don't want to like copy paste. Right? If you find yourself copy pasting code, then you should be thinking, hey, let's make this a function. So I took this for each. I right clicked on it. Quick actions and refactoring. I want to extract a method. I want to call this method refresh list box. All right, and I don't need to send it the customer list because that is a class level variable. But now, refresh list box, I can call right here. So I've got refresh list box that when you load the form and you grab the customers, you populate it, and then also when you add a customer, you populate it. And save customers, let's take a look at that. Yeah, we'll get to this code in a few weeks. But you can see it takes a customer and it does not return anything. Sorry, it takes a list of customers, does not return anything. And you can kind of make out what it's doing here. It loops through the customers and it writes it to a text file. But again, we're going to get into the details of that next week. But we can test this out. I can run this right now, hit add. First thing I want to do is make sure my error checking works. And it does. I'm going to put in right? And put some spaces there to show you. I'll put my email address. I've got a whole bunch of spaces here. I want to show you that we're actually trimming that. If I hit save, well, at least now my customer is here, right? Let's hit exit. Oh, exit doesn't work. Let's close it. And we'll look at customers.txt now. And there we go. Eric, pipe, Nagel, pipe, and my email address. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of this in a few weeks when we're dealing with writing to files and everything. But this file, customers.txt, for my students is in the customer maintenance project directory. I've got it sitting. This is the solution. Here's the project. I have it sitting right here. All right. If you installed the files from the book, they say, I gotta go back a page here. The customer DB class assumes that the file of customers.txt, this file here, is in the C:\C# files directory. All right. Mine is not. We moved it to the project directory. And then, in case you're wondering, the code to make that work is in customers DB. I'm saying, where is this file? It's at .. .. means go up a directory from where you are right now. So when our application is running, it's running in bin, debug, and we're in .NET 8. So this is the file that's running right here, customer maintenance.exe. So where is my text file? .. go up a level, .. go up a level, one more, .. go up a level. There is customers.txt. All right, so my students, you don't have to worry about this at all. Everyone else, read the book where it says where the file should be saved, or put the file right here, and you can start with just a blank file, customers.txt, and in your customer DB, this is going to be .. Okay, that was a little preview of what's coming up in a few weeks, but you can see that it wrote it there. And if I run this now, when the application starts, what did it do? It ran get customers and it filled that list box. Okay, now we need to add an event handler for deleting customers. So double click on delete, and it removes the selected customer from the list. I'm copying all this right now. I'm going to put it in as a comment. Removes the selected customer from the list. Call save customer method. And refreshes the list box. All right, but that's not all. Be sure to confirm the delete operation. All right, let's start with, make sure they chose something, right? Because I could run this application, not choose anything, and hit delete. So if I just hit delete, it should do what it's doing right now, absolutely nothing. All right, so I'm just going to say, let's do this. We're going to say int selected customer index. I know it's a really long variable name, but I want you to understand what it is equal to lst customers.selected index. So that's the thing that's been chosen. If selected customer index is equal to -1, you just return. Now we could, message box.show, you could show an error message here. We're just going to return, get out of there. All right, so who was chosen? So chosen customer is going to be equal to, now the place that the selected index of the list box, right now we only have one, right? So that is going to be spot 0 is my name, and then there's spot 1 below it, spot 2, etc., etc. That is also the place in the list where that customer is. So the chosen customer is equal to customer list at spot selected customer index. That is the customer that was chosen. So let's confirm that operation. Confirmation message equals, are you sure you want to delete And now we have that customer, so I can add to this chosen customer dot. I could run get display text, but I don't want their email address. So all I want is their first name and a space and their last name. And because it's a question, I'm going to finish it with a question mark. Are you sure you want to delete this customer? And show the confirmation window. We're going to show the confirmation message. We're going to give it a title. We're going to use some message box buttons. I'm going to use yes, no here. And yeah, it's a question, so the icon is going to be a question mark. And again, let me just break this up so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and we need to know what button the user clicked. Did they click yes or did they click no? So the result from this message box is a dialog result, and we'll say chosen button. Then let's do the easy one first. If chosen button is equal to no, don't do anything. Otherwise, we need to remove that customer from the list. So customer list dot remove the chosen customer. Call save customers method of the customer DB class. Customer DB dot save customers, and that takes the customer list as an argument and refreshes the customer list box. So what do we call that? Refresh list box. All right, so let's test this. It loaded up. I click on my name. I hit delete. Are you sure you want to delete Eric Nagel? No, I don't. Hit delete again. You're sure you want to delete? Yes, I do. Nothing seemed to happen. And exit still doesn't work. But look at this. If I run it again, my box is empty. All right, we're going to fix that error in a second. I know exactly what it is. But let's get some easy points here. Double click the exit button. That was step 12, by the way, is to code the exit button. So look, what happens here is I'm going to add someone. All right, I'm going to add a couple people here. Eric Nagel, Nagels at Buffalo State.edu. Add tester, test at test.com. Oh, now I have 2 Eric Nagels. Well, what's happening is our refresh list box, it loops through the list and adds it to the list box. So I added Eric Nagel, and then when I added tester, it said, okay, now I added Eric Nagel, let's start with that one. There's one person in the list box, or the list here. I call refresh list box, and it adds that one customer to LST customers. Now I add tester. Eric Nagel is at spot 0. Tester is at spot 1. As I loop through them and I add it to the list box, it got added twice because this is spot 0, this is spot 0, and spot 1. If I add someone else, spot 0, spot 1, spot 2. So in refresh list box here, what we need to do is lst customers.items.clear. Okay, now when I run this, I should have 3 users here. Great. I'm going to let's take the middle one and delete them. Now I just have 2. If I add someone, tester, test at test.com, there it is. All right, so testing is important. Don't just add one user and delete one user, right? Make sure everything's working. Oh, let's test this thing here too. What if I just click on delete? All right, good, that's working. What if I click on delete and then I say no? Okay, that worked. So there you go. That is your customer maintenance application 12.1 from Murach C#.